Hello, this is our next episode of The Light Within, and today I wanted to go into some of the classes that you take in the Pranic Healing School, which is so exciting because this is, of course, my favorite part. Being an instructor of Pranic Healing is the classes, and I retake the classes as much as possible. It doesn't matter how long I've been in Pranic Healing, and it doesn't matter going forward. I will always continue to take Pranic Healing classes, and that's my advice to my students: is review as many times as you can. Typically the review fees are half the price, or they're very reasonable. And also, if you get involved in volunteering, sometimes you, as a volunteer, you get to review as well. So get involved and take as many classes as you can. That's the first thing I want to say. But getting into the meat and potatoes, I guess you can say, of Pranic Healing classes. So I like to use one of my teacher's terms. I'm a baby instructor. I teach level 1 Pranic Healing, but there's so many classes. So I'll just go into some of the basics and talk about the classes that I think are the most important. So level 1 Pranic Healing is like your foundational skills. So when you take level 1 Pranic Healing, everything else that you take adds on top of it, which is great because you're not learning a completely different thing. You're learning maybe, we have the 7 steps of Pranic Healing, which I can go through really quick. It's sensitizing your hands, right? Scanning, feeling the energy, right? Doing general sweeping, which is cleansing the entire aura and body, and then localized sweeping, which is cleansing one area. Number 4 is increasing receptivity, helping the person be more receptive to the energy. There's so many ways of doing it. And then energizing. So what we practiced in some of the early videos. Okay? Then we do stabilizing, which keeps the energy in that area so that the body can absorb it and use it. And then releasing, which is just disconnecting. It's not disconnecting you emotionally or on a personal level from the person. It's disconnecting so that energy doesn't transfer back and forth between you. So we teach these 7 steps of Pranic Healing in level 1, and by the end of the first day, you've pretty much gotten all 7 steps of Pranic Healing. Now, level 1 will also go into distant healing. It's going to be your foundation for how Pranic Healing works. What are the main principles of Pranic Healing? Your body knows how to heal itself, right? And by giving your body or your energy centers more prana, right, or chi, it accelerates the natural healing ability of the body. And everything you do in Pranic Healing, no matter how many classes you take, even when you get to the higher courses, it all comes down to those 2 principles. So you'll read that in every book and you'll see it all over the place. So really quick, you'll learn, like I said, you'll learn distant healing. You will learn self-healing in level 1. You will learn meditation techniques like the meditation Twin Hearts. You will practice protocols at least 4 times, at least Pranic Healing protocol, so that by the time you leave the 2-day class, sometimes it can be spread out over a couple more than 2 days if you do shorter sessions, but I typically teach a 9 to 5 class with a lunch break, and it's just straight Saturday, Sunday Pranic Healing. So when you do level 1, you leave with the ability to basically work on everything, which is amazing. Now, when you take level 2, you're still doing the 7 steps of Pranic Healing. You're just adding color prana. So, this is the story that I've been told so many different times, is that, there are other healing schools, one in particular, and another healer of mine that helped introduce me to Pranic Healing, has these meditations where, how they have the 7 chakra model, right? And it's 7 chakras, 7 musical notes, right? 7 colors of the rainbow, or 6 colors of the rainbow, and then indigo, 7 numbers, all the different 7. It's an easy number for our brain to absorb. So let's say the crown chakra is violet or purple, right? So you would imagine purple energy going into the crown, and maybe the root, or what we call in Pranic Healing, the basic chakra, is red. So you would bring red in. So that's a simplified meditation technique or visualization technique. But once you take Advanced Pranic Healing, you learn very specialized colors that have a specific effect. So what I was always told, again, is that when these color pranas were taught in ancient times, they were taught, one at a time over many, many, many years. But in the level 2 class, Advanced Pranic Healing, you learn many different color pranas and different shades of color pranas, right? Because it's not just like a pure blue color when you use pranic healing. Sometimes you use a really dark blue, and then sometimes you use like the lightest blue, like a sky blue or a pastel blue, right? And typically we use more of what we call light whitish colors, which are very light forms of the color with white. In level 1, you're using white. You're not visualizing any color or using any color prana. And white, if you put white color through a prism, it comes out into the rainbow, right? So white has all of the properties of the color prana. So level 1 is actually really safe, and your body actually through a specific chakra has the ability to break this white down and send it to the areas that it's needed. So level 1 is like an overall amazing class. If you just took that and you used that for the rest of your life, it would be an amazing tool to have in your tool belt. So now when you take Advanced Pranic Healing, you get to work on specialized things, and it accelerates the healing at an even higher level. Your healings might take an hour and a half, but then when you take Advanced Pranic Healing, your healings might take an hour or maybe even 45 minutes because it's quicker. But then the protocols become more comprehensive because you're able to do more. Now, after you take Advanced Pranic Healing, level 3 is Pranic Psychotherapy. Now, this is what I thought Pranic Healing was when I first started, because I was introduced to Pranic Healing. I was told, go get healing with this healer, and it was for psychological stuff. I didn't talk at all about any physical problems. So I didn't think of Pranic Healing. I thought it was a psychological healing thing. And then it's funny because I actually called the center where I was starting to take my classes, and then I was asking about Pranic Psychotherapy. They said, oh, you have to do level 1, and then you could take psychotherapy and advanced and all these things. And then I went on their website and I saw crystal Pranic Healing, and I thought, oh my gosh, I want to use a crystal, like a wand, like a, I thought that was amazing. So I called them back and I said, it's so funny when I look back on my sassy self. I said, I don't want to take level 1. I don't want to take level 2. I don't want to take those classes. I just want to take crystal Pranic Healing. And they were like, yeah, I understand. It makes sense. But you can't. And I was like, okay, but I'm not going to take anything unless you let me. And they were like, we can't do that. So I actually signed up for the level 1 class, and I was really, really surprised. All I wanted to do was take level 1. I had the psychotherapy book because I had bought it from a bookstore, and then I wanted to take crystal healing because I thought after I took level 1 I could do the psychotherapy techniques because I had the book. And then when I took psychotherapy, I realized I was doing the techniques all wrong, and then I could use my crystal. Right, this is like a typical, this is a big version of a Pranic Healing crystal, right? So I saw, these kinds of crystals, and I thought, oh, I want to be doing that. So when you look at my YouTube videos or my Instagram videos, you'll see me, I'm usually using a crystal, because if advanced and psychotherapy speed up your healing time, the crystal, it's like, could be 100 times faster. It's so quick when you use a crystal, because crystals amplify the energy. And when you're cleaning with the crystal, you can use the crystal to extract energy out, which is super, super helpful. Now, back to psychotherapy, that's what I thought Pranic Healing was, but I took level 1, and then I was in my level 1 class, and my teacher, she was very stern, very stern. I've never said these things publicly, so if she ever sees this or hears this, just know it's not, I have no negative thoughts or emotions about this. It's, if anything, it's just funny to me, but she was very strict. She didn't smile. She watched every single student. If you were doing the hand motion incorrectly, she would come up and she would say, no, do the hand motion this way, do the hand motion that way. So whatever it was, she was very strict. But then you could, every once in a while, you would see when everyone was doing everything properly, she would give a small smile and then she would go back to being very serious. But actually, I noticed when I talked to her outside of classes, she was very jovial and kind and sweet and gentle. But in the classes, she was very strict. But then after the class, I stayed behind to ask a couple of questions about things. Everyone was in a hurry to leave, but I had driven all the way down San Diego from where I lived, so I was going to get the most out of it. So I stayed behind and I was getting ready to ask her question, and she pointed at me and she was like, Nathan, you're good. You should be a teacher. And I was like, what are you talking about? I just took level 1 class, what do you mean I'm good? So I said, well, what does that require? And she said, this is what she said. She said, the center requires that you take level 1, 2, and 3, and then they'll let you enroll in the instructors conference. That's the way it used to be. It's not that way anymore. You have to take a few more classes. So I immediately went home and signed up for level 2 and 3. Even though I was allowed to take crystal at that time, I signed up for level 2 and 3 because something that she said really resonated with me. I've always enjoyed being a teacher, being a mentor for people. I've always enjoyed passing along information. So I thought it was a great idea, so I thought I'd pursue it. I talked to my mentor at the healing nights that I used to help at, and I told her that I was planning to do the teacher's training. It was coming up at the end of the year. I took my class in April 31st and May 1st. So my certificate has April 31st / May 1st. Okay? It was a Saturday, Sunday. And so I told my mentor that my teacher had told me to teach, and she just got really excited and was like, oh, great. So she actually started enrolling me in a bunch of the classes. And by the time that instructor's training, actually it was after the start of the year, the next year, the beginning of the next year, we had the instructor's training, and I was in that, within less than a year of being in Pranic Healing. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I really wanted to do it. She instilled, she said, you're really good, you should teach. And I thought, oh okay. I don't know why. I had no intention of doing that before. Like I said, I just wanted level 1 so that I could take crystal healing, do psychotherapy, and just have fun with it. So then I went and I took Advanced Pranic Healing, and I took Pranic Psychotherapy with a different instructor. And I learned so much in those classes. I mean, those classes were amazing. In my first year, so in that year, this was May, I think I took, April, I think in mid-April, because I took, April 1st, I graduated level 1, and mid-April, I took Advanced Pranic Healing, and then at the beginning, I think at the beginning of June, I took Advanced Psychotherapy, and then my teacher that year, I still attend her classes actually, she would do level 1, 2, and 3 every month. She did it, at least she did level 1, 2, and 3 6 months out of the year. She did those 3 classes in the month. So I was reviewing each class. So I remember having the class booklets for writing notes and my own notes. And I had taken, at that time, I took level 1 7 times in the first year, level 2 7 times in the year, 6 times with my other teacher and 1 time with Master Co, and then psychotherapy 7 times, 6 times with my other teacher and 1 time with Master Co. So I reviewed the initial classes so much in the beginning, and that's why I always tell people ask me questions about pranic healing all the time, that may actually be in pranic healing for a long time. And I'm not saying this as a statement of pride that I'm so smart or anything. I just sat in those classes and was fascinated with the material and wanted to just keep taking the class over and over again, because every time I took it, I learned something new, and I got to work on new people, and I got to make friends, and I got to, see other people that were new, and then I got to see people who were also reviewing that had been in the classes for a lot longer than I had. So it was a great environment, and my teacher, she is a wealth of knowledge. So I decided to take those classes, and then I think it was November, which was one of the only months that my teacher wasn't teaching level 1, 2, or 3. In November, there was a class called Arhatic Yoga, which we've talked about is the synthesis of the different yogic traditions, right? So if you go to a yoga teacher and you ask them what yoga means, they'll tell you it means union, right? And yoga comes from the root of the word yoga is like a string that connects two things. What is this connection? So in my first retreat, actually every year we have these retreats. I'm going fast because I want to make sure to get the main classes talked about in this video to inspire you. So I was told in my first retreat by one of the masters, actually. Usually at the retreat, several masters will get together to do a retreat, and it's kind of like, as my teacher says, a boot camp, an Arhatic Yoga boot camp, meditation boot camp. So my teacher said, Arhatic Yoga is a synthesis of yogas, right? So we have different yogas. Like I think I talked about it in a previous video. We have karma yoga, which is the yoga of service. All types of yoga are meant to bring you some level of enlightenment, right? Some level of deeper connection, deeper understanding with yourself and with the world around you. And with that comes a deeper level of fulfillment and purpose. So if you've ever met someone that feels they don't have purpose, they don't know what their purpose is in life, that's one of the reasons that Arhatic Yoga exists, is to help inspire purpose in people. And there's so many things inside of Arhatic Yoga that after taking the class, I think it was in November of that year, it took me 3 months to fully synthesize all of the information, because it's a lot of information. It took me 3 months, and it wasn't one of those classes that you can review every month, like the pranic healing classes. This was a class that comes around like maybe twice a year at that time, and still. So I didn't have the opportunity to review it, so I relied on my mentor when I had questions about some of the meditations and some of the practices. So, you have karma yoga, which is the yoga of service. You have Jnana yoga, which is the yoga of the mind. It's mental yoga. You have hatha yoga, which is the yoga of the physical body, right? It's using your physical body to develop yourself. And each of the yogas will get you to the end result, right? The way it was explained to me is like, think of a mountain. There might be 7 paths or 8 or 9 paths up the mountain. And some of them will have different walkways, different ways of getting up the mountain. Maybe one you have to hike, maybe one you have to run, maybe one you have to crawl, but all of them get you to the top of the mountain. We could talk more about what the top is, but so Arhatic Yoga, the purpose of Arhatic Yoga is to synthesize these yogas, to bring them all into one system, so that you don't have to go and search for the different yogas, right? People do this. They go all over the world, and if you've done that's not a bad thing, actually. If you've gone all over the world, you go to India to do this like 3-month retreat so that you can learn this type of yoga, and then they go to Tibet to learn that, all over the world to learn these different types of yoga. So Arhatic Yoga, the purpose of it is to really speed up your development as a person. And what does that mean? to speed your development up? Well, you have to think about it. What is permanent? And I like to bring this concept up because I try to think about it every day, at least every day. What is permanent, right? Well, for me, as I've gone along, when I've learned a significant lesson in love, for instance, when I've learned a significant, within love, there's something like patience, right? Even though I still might lose my patience, after I learned a certain degree of patience, it's like it's stuck, right? I can still lose my patience here or there, but compared to before I was doing the practices of Arhatic Yoga and Pranic Healing, it's like night and day, right? I learned generosity. That's also an aspect of love, right? I maybe I was a little bit generous, and maybe sometimes I wasn't generous at all. And there's many types of generosity, but after really the teachings really sunk in, I developed an ability to be generous, and that's never gone away. And there's times where I'm more generous than others, and there's times where I'm not as generous as I should be. But again, it's like I got this lesson in the category, I guess you could say, of love. I'm just using this as an example, and I never lost it. And so when I look at everything else, I have these posters, these pranic healing posters, and I have, the posters can't like, I bought frames for them, or they came with frames, and the frames have broken, the posters have worn out, all of these different things. But a lot of the things that are on the posters, like the one I'm looking at right now, is the meditation on prosperity, which is one, it looks goofy sometimes when you see us doing it in public, but we're doing squats and we're repeating the affirmation for prosperity. And it's interesting because I repeated it so many times that even if the poster fades and you can't see, or it got wet, or it sat in the sun, because that did happen to me one time. I left all my posters in the car, and the one on the top was left in the sun, and it completely faded, and I was very disappointed and upset. But I actually didn't give it away. I kept it and framed it, took it out of its normal frame and put it in a nice frame to compensate for it being sun damaged. But what's interesting is that poster is not permanent. That poster could sit, who knows? I mean, it could last for a while, but it'll fall apart. But I think what my point is that Arhatic Yoga and the higher teachings of Pranic Healing and Arhatic Yoga give you the ability to develop and retain permanent qualities of you could say, the soul or the self. And I'm still working on many, 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 many things. And even recently I discovered a whole world of things that I haven't worked on, that I didn't realize were in this category of love, right? And then you can also think about will as well. Willpower, will or power is another thing. I mean, you have to will yourself to get out of bed in the morning, right? You have to will yourself to exercise. You have to will yourself to do physical tasks. But then that's not enough to survive, especially in today's world. You have to will yourself to make money. You have to will yourself to go and put out job applications to get a job, and will yourself to meet with family. Maybe you don't want to meet with family. You have to will yourself to do these things. So once I developed a certain level of power or will, I never lost it. And sometimes I'll go back and forth between these things where I notice I'm more loving, more willful, more mental. But the main core lesson of it is what's permanent. And I want you to reflect on that in this video, is that the pranic healing techniques have never left. Even through COVID, right? I didn't have the opportunity to review over and over again. But then by the time that the pandemic was open and classes opened up again, I realized I never lost anything. Reviewing was great, but I had it all within me, in my mind, on my notes. So it's a very permanent part of my life. And even like the spiritual teachings, you memorize them, right? You can memorize them, but has it sunk in? Do you understand what it means? And you probably will always come to different levels of understanding it. But the core lesson of it, if you learn that, it'll never leave you. And that is the best way, and a unique way, like I said in the beginning, of explaining what the higher courses in Pranic Healing and Arhatic Yoga. The other one is on the other side of the coin of Arhatic Yoga is Kriyashakti. Kriyashakti is using your words, your intentions to create something, to manifest your goals and your wishes. Because we live in a modern society, we need to be able to create. We need to be able to materialize, actually, something. That's the better word. So once you learn these techniques, it actually starts to become a part of your life, like in the materialization class, the Kriyashakti class. Once I took this class, I realized, it's when people always say, like, watch your words, what you say tends to manifest, or, your words become your reality. They say these different things, or like energies attract. It didn't make sense to me, but once I took Kriyashakti, I realized, every time I speak, I'm creating. So what do I want to create? Right? Like I said before, my teacher said, use your powers for good. That's what she said. Because I used to just go off and say things I was frustrated about, and she would be like, watch your words, basically, is what she was saying. And that's something that I realized from the classes is, okay, I don't use my words properly, and I'm going to continue to make mistakes with my words, but I know and have realized and have understood how to use my words in the right way. And I have that teaching within me, no matter what. Even if I don't have my books, even if I don't have anything, I can always draw on those things. You can always draw on your permanent lessons. You can always draw on those deeper spiritual soul level lessons that you learned, no matter what, because those are what is permanent. Anyway, there's other classes in Pranic Healing. There's spiritual business management, which is actually a little bit different than what it sounds like. It sounds like it's to run your business on a spiritual level, which is true, but it's actually a very powerful class in understanding the different qualities of people. Right? There's the three main qualities: light, love, and power. But actually, there's 7 main, like colors. Right? There's 7 main qualities, and actually, the idea is to develop them all. But you'll notice that some people tend to have more of like a math skill or a mental skill. Some people tend to have more of a relational skill, a loving skill. Some people tend to be just very good at going to the gym and forcing their body to do things and forcing themselves to stay on a routine. And the idea is to understand your skill and develop it, and also to be able to recognize that in other people, so that if, let's say, you're running your business, you might not put the mental person in a customer service role. You might put the loving relational person in the customer service role. Even if they're not as mental, they will be able to interact with the customer better because they are very good at relating and connecting with people. So there's that class. There's, like I said, Arhatic Yoga and Kriyashakti. There's the spiritual and the physical, right? Mastery over the spiritual and the physical. And then there's a host of other classes, the inner teachings of Hinduism, Christianity, and Buddhism as well. And what this is when you take these classes, you will understand. You're taking the inner teachings of Christianity, but then you're learning about all the traditions. So when you take the classes, you're seeing the similarities between all of the different traditions, and you're seeing actually some of the healing techniques and some of the deeper meditation techniques that are hidden in the poetry, the paintings, the artwork. Because at that time, if you were to write something on a papyrus scroll, right, like they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, if you were to write a teaching down, it might get lost or it might get damaged. But if you were to put it on the form of a painting, if you were able to paint it and have that image be reproduced, you could actually put a spiritual teaching into a painting. And so by taking those classes, the inner teachings of those different of the world religions, you will be able to see universal truth in the teachings rather than just seeing it from your perspective or whatever perspective you were taught growing up. So that's something that when I came into pranic healing, I was mostly like an agnostic or atheist. I didn't have a respect for the traditions, and what I am now is none of any of it. It's something completely different. But one thing that's very true is that I have a deep respect for all of the different traditions, because I can see that they are all intending to do the same thing, and at the root of it all is healing and helping to transform lives. So think about this and rewind it if you want to learn about an individual class, or put a comment if you want information on how you can access these classes in your area. I can help you find them. We have a global directory. Otherwise, maybe we'll go more into the classes in the next session, but I hope this was helpful in giving you an idea. But this was more my story than anything. And a lot of people have different stories, but take the leap and just take one of the classes. Take level 1 and see what that leads you into, because level 1 is really healing, is really the root of all of this, goodwill, right? And the will to do good. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you in the next one.